Welcome everyone to our first webinar on assistive technology. Today, we are going to be talking about advancing opportunities technology lending center. We are here with Vanessa. I will let Vanessa and Eden introduce themselves and get us started. So I'm handing it over to you guys.
Great. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for having us. My name is Vanessa Lombardo. I am the director of the Assistive Technology Department of Advancing Opportunities. And today with me is Eden. Eden, would you introduce yourself?
My name is Eden Melmed. I'm the TLC coordinator.
All right, and we wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Technology Lending Center that we have here at Advancing Opportunities. It is funded through Disability Rights New Jersey. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the process. Well, first, assistive technology in general, the process for borrowing equipment, some of the things that we have. We only do have a half hour, so we can't possibly go through all of the technology, but just some snapshots of a few different things, and some time for wrap up, and of course questions really can be just throughout our time here. So just to get right into it, so like I said, we work for Advancing Opportunities. We do a lot of things in terms of assistive technology. We do evaluations and trainings, and we work with all different kinds of funders, state funders in New Jersey. So DDD, Developmental Disabilities, DCF, Division of Children and Families and Perform Care, DVR, Voc Rehab, the Commission for the Blind, the Traumatic Brain Injury Fund, as well as various school districts throughout the state. And we do work with people with all different types of disabilities, and we're mobile in that we go out and do evaluations and trainings where people are, so at their place of work or their home or their school. And just to define what assistive technology is, so it is any piece of equipment that can be used to really support someone with a disability. And it really can be anything at all, low tech, mid tech, high tech, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as we're going through. So it's not just necessarily the most complex device, it's not necessarily the latest and greatest, it really can be anything. And some of the framework, or the primary framework that we do use when we are talking about trying to find a good tool to match the person, so we are looking at a variety of tools, again, not just the most complex, and then really looking at what type of service does the person, or would they benefit from, whether it's an eval or just more kind of collaboration, consultation, and training. And with those two things, that's really helping us with the feature matching. We really want to make sure that we are recommending, even for just the TLC, if someone is going to borrow a piece of equipment, the best thing for them. And that really is the purpose of the Lending Center, is that you can try it before you buy it. So in terms of the Technology Lending Center, like I had mentioned already, try it before you buy it. It is funded through a grant through DRNJ, and it is free to any New Jersey resident. So all you need to be is a person who lives in the state of New Jersey. You don't have to have a disability. You don't have to be a certain age, income, any of that doesn't matter. Anybody can borrow equipment. And the process is very straightforward. You have to become a member. So we do ask you to register. You can contact us either via email or phone. And you can ask us, if you look on our website, there's a list of equipment to borrow, or if you have some ideas, you can ask us about those or what you're struggling with, and we can try to match it up. And then everything is shipped out via UPS. So you don't have to come to Ewing. If you live close to Ewing, we have had some people who have stopped in and they want to try the equipment themselves. That's perfectly fine, but you don't have to do that. We can ship it out to you. You borrow it for approximately 6 weeks. We can loan it to you a little bit longer if it is not something that is in demand. And then it gets shipped back to us as well. So you get a call tag to send it back. So it's a fairly straightforward process. So we do want to talk about some of the tools. Eden is going to just talk a few different items on each of the slides. So Eden, I will pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing we're going to look at is some of the ways you can access a computer. We'll take a look first at some mouse alternatives, and these are things that you're going to use to move the cursor and to make selections on the screen. We have lots of different kinds of mice. We have ergonomic, we have trackballs, joystick. The trackballs are nice because you don't need to use your fingers, your hands. You can use the back of your hand or maybe a forearm to move the mouse. We have, let's see, what else? The finger mouse. On the right side of the screen, you put it on your finger and then you just use your thumb to move the trackball, the small trackball. There's a joystick in the bottom left. It's called the joust, and that joystick you can use with your mouth or your cheek, your chin, and then above that, in the top left corner, is an eye tracking system. We have head mice, eye gaze, eye tracking. So really lots of different ways to move the cursor around the screen and to make your selection. Next, we'll look at some keyboard alternatives. Again, lots of different ways to enter text into the computer. We have large keyboards for people with low vision or that just have trouble with some smaller keys, lots with nice contrast. And then on the other side, we have mini keyboards, so you don't have to travel as far from key to key. There's on-screen keyboards that everyone's familiar with these days, as well as voice input for the computer. Again, these days everybody's pretty familiar with those. And then to actually access the keyboard itself, we have different tools. You can use a head pointer or a slip-on typing aid, or the key guard that's in the bottom right corner. That helps to isolate the keys, and it also gives you a place to rest your hand. Next, we'll look at switch access. Now, this could be switch access for the computer, or it could be for toys, switch toys, or communication devices. And again, there are lots of different switches available. This is just a sampling of what we have. From the top left, these are called PalPad, and they're just very thin, need just a light touch. And you can put these in different places, so you don't need to use your fingers to access these. And then next to that is the Microlight switch. Again, it just takes a very light touch to make that switch work. And then next to that, going across the top, is a gooseneck switch. Again, you can use this switch similar to the joust joystick with your chin, your cheek, your elbow, whatever is appropriate. And then next to that, again on the right, is a push button switch. And then along the bottom we have candy corn, jelly bean switch, and a pillow switch, which is a nice soft switch, especially if you're using something like a cheek to access. And then these are some of the switch toys we have available in our center. And switch toys can be something that you buy off the shelf, already adapted for switch use, or we can use a battery interrupter to, for any toy that just has an on-off switch, you leave it on, you put in the battery interrupter, and it can become switch activated.
Another area that we get asked about often and that people do want to borrow is in the area of augmentative communication. So for an individual who might be having some difficulty communicating verbally, and there are a lot of different devices for augmentative communication. We do have more lower tech or maybe mid-tech type devices to lend out, and some of them are featured here. Some of them you can print out the pictures, words and pictures. The one on the top, the big red button, is a recorder, so it'll record one message. Some of them are a step-by-step, so they'll record a couple of different messages. So it is a way to start in terms of teaching someone to learn how to use a system. And then again, of course, depending on their skill set and their level of language development, maybe a more complex device might be appropriate. But this is one place to start, and we do lend these out fairly often. Some of these devices also can be switch activated, so if it's an individual who also has a physical disability and has difficulty with the direct select, like Eden had talked about before, you can set up a switch with some of them, and some of them also do come with a key guard, that clear plastic piece that can go over the device as well. We also do have iPads to lend out, as well as some iPod Touches. Again, for using it for a more complex, or students who do need, either have complex needs or have so much language that they are able to really work with a more complex device. The iPads that we have a variety of apps on them in terms of augmentative communication. So we do have them to loan. We can also loan out iPads for other uses as well. It doesn't have to be for augmentative communication, but it is something where when we're getting into this level, it might be helpful to have an evaluation. That way the team knows what the person is able to do and really have a good fit, but we can loan out iPads as well. In regard to some of the other features that are built into the iPad, some accessibility features that again are already there, not only just on iDevices or Apple devices, but also on Android devices. So there's things to support vision, features to support physical disabilities, hearing, as well as guided access. So sometimes people will ask us to borrow an iPad just for the accessibility features, not necessarily for a specific app that may or may not be installed, or like I had said, for augmentative communication. And there are alternatives now where you can link up a mouse to an iPad, and there's a variety of adapters as well. So like I said, we do loan those out, as well as the cases with them as well. A few devices that we have for low vision or activities of daily living. We do have some silverware, adapted silverware from a company called Liftware. So it will reduce the movement of the spoon if a person has tremors or has some difficulty with gross motor movements. We do have some larger phones that are in the middle of the screen, so very large buttons, very easily accessible. There's a speed dial option where you can program numbers in. So maybe for someone who might also have a cognitive disability, maybe doesn't remember the phone numbers, and so you can easily have that work with their landline. We also have some of the Alexas. This is an Alexa Show that is featured on here in the upper left corner with voice activation. We use that for a variety of things. Sometimes we're using it in some of our group homes through our residential programs, where we are giving the individuals living in the group home, the ability to change the environment through their voice or to find out information, and certainly can be used through Siri as well, or Google Home. So there are a variety of items. So we do have some of those in the Lending Center as well. So here's some of our information. This is our website, assistedtechnologycenter.org, and there is a spot to click on the Technology Lending Center. So that will show you all of the devices that we have. And we also, again, we are here to help in terms of asking questions. So if someone isn't sure what kind of technology they want to borrow, we are able to have that conversation with them. And like I said, we are able to speak with anyone. So whether it's someone who's a family member or a professional working with the person with a disability, or obviously the individual themselves, we're happy to have that conversation and to help figure out what type of device might be helpful for them to try out, to start them on that journey of figuring out what might be best for them. that is all that we had for today. Like I said, we are happy to answer any questions, but thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to speaking with you to borrow something from the Lending Center.
Thank you, Vanessa and Eden. That was really great and really informative. And thank you for sharing. Does anyone have any last minute questions they would like to ask Vanessa or Eden? If not, it's a wrap. And thank you everyone for joining us. And
Thank you, Naomi. Have a good rest of your day.
you too. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.